There is something inside you that you do not completely understand, and yet it shapes every connection you have. It is the uncommon aura of the true empath. And I must tell you, this is not simply a gift of sensitivity, as many people romantically describe it. At its deepest source, it is a wound transformed into awareness. It is the shadow becoming vision. And if you are here listening to these words now, it is because life has carved into your soul a passage deep enough for the unconscious to move through you. You see, we often think of empathy as a virtue, as a kind and gentle quality. And in many ways it is. But beneath this bright surface lies something older, something archetypal. It is the inheritance of the wounded healer, the echo of Chiron, who could not heal himself and yet felt the suffering of every living soul. This is what you carry, and it is both a blessing and a warning. When I speak of aura, I do not mean only the poetic glow of personality. I am speaking about that subtle psychic field, the energy surrounding you when your inner and outer worlds are aligned with the deep unconscious. Most people live wrapped in thick armor. Their minds are trapped inside hardened beliefs, their hearts hidden behind walls of fear and persona. But the true empath has often removed this armor without meaning to. Usually this did not happen by choice, but through survival. You, the empath, were forced early in life to read unspoken emotions, to sense tension in a room, to predict what others needed before they could even express it themselves. Perhaps it came from a childhood where love felt conditional and silence felt dangerous. Or maybe it came from living around someone unpredictable, whose moods controlled your sense of safety. One way or another, you learned that your own emotions came second. You learned that the only way to survive was to deeply and accurately feel what others carried inside themselves. This is where your aura was born. It is not only light. It is an ancient warning system transformed into intuition. But I must caution you because this aura, as uncommon as it is, attracts both light and darkness toward you. You shine in a way that fragmented people can sense immediately. You awaken within them both longing and fear. They may come to you for comfort, healing, or emotional nourishment they cannot find inside themselves. And if you are not careful, they will draw from your spirit until you feel empty. You see, when you carry the archetype of the healer, you attract those who are not yet ready to heal themselves. And here lies the danger. Empathy, when unconscious, becomes a prison. It ties you to the pain of others until you can no longer tell where they end and where you begin. The unconscious communicates through symbols, through dreams, through strange encounters that seem destined. Perhaps you have dreamed of a forest, dark and filled with whispering voices, and you felt the trees leaning closer as though they were listening to your thoughts. This is not simply fantasy. It is your own psyche reminding you that you are always connected to the living web of feeling that stretches beyond the individual self. Empaths move through life like open instruments, and the sounds of the world, its grief, anger, and beauty, move through them, whether they allow it or not. But to live this way without awareness is to become haunted by emotions that never belong to you. So ask yourself this: what is the cost of carrying everyone else's pain? There is an old story in alchemy about the vessel that must hold transformation. The vessel must remain strong enough to survive the fire, to contain both poison and gold. If the vessel breaks, everything is lost. You are this vessel. If you do not learn how to handle the heat of the world's suffering, if you cannot recognize what belongs to you and what does not, eventually you will crack apart. You will become resentful, exhausted, and drained of the very life force that makes your aura so uncommon. And then you may call it fate, as though the world naturally destroys people like you. But it is not fate. It is the absence of shadow work. Shadow work is the path I would guide you toward, because inside your shadow, the part of yourself you buried, denied, or ignored, lies the key to your boundaries. Most empaths believe that saying no is cruel, that stepping away from pain is selfish. But this belief is an illusion created by an overdeveloped persona, the mask of the good one, the self-sacrificing one who must always give. Yet the shadow contains your anger, your instinct for self-protection, your hidden desire to stop carrying what never belonged to you in the first place. To become whole, you must allow this shadow to breathe. You must let the dark forest in your dreams speak to you, not as an enemy, but as a guide. I once said that the greatest privilege in life is becoming who you truly are. For the empath, this path becomes even more difficult because your identity has been shaped by the emotions and needs of everyone around you. It is as though you stand before a mirror that has absorbed not only your reflection, but the reflections of every person you have loved, feared, or tried to rescue. So when someone asks, "Who are you?" you may struggle to answer. You are not the sum of other people's wounds. You are not the echo of someone else's suffering. And yet you may have built your entire life around soothing others. This may seem noble, but it is not the final chapter of your story. There comes a moment in the life of every true empath when the unconscious demands confrontation. It may arrive as burnout, a painful betrayal, a relationship collapsing unexpectedly, or a dream so vivid it shakes the foundation of who you think you are. This is the psyche saying enough. It is time to reclaim your own energy. During this confrontation, you may feel guilt, as though you are abandoning those who rely on you. But understand this clearly. You cannot truly help anyone if you remain unconscious of your own limits. A healer who bleeds endlessly while caring for others eventually saves no one. Empathy was never meant to remain a wound forever. It is meant to mature into wisdom. In the beginning, empathy feels raw, like an exposed nerve reacting to every vibration around it. But with inner work, it becomes discerning. It learns when to step forward and when to step back. It understands that love is not about drowning inside another person's pain, but about holding space where transformation becomes possible. This is the difference between a conscious empath and one who is simply overwhelmed by emotions. The conscious empath knows their aura is a mirror, not a sponge. It reflects truth, but it does not absorb every shadow it encounters. When I look at the archetypes guiding humanity, I see that the empath is deeply connected to the archetype of the mystic. The mystic feels the heartbeat of the world because they have entered their own depths and returned with the understanding that all souls are connected. But this realization does not turn them into servants. It gives them clarity. They understand that compassion is not carrying the burden of everyone else, but awakening others to carry their own burdens consciously. So I urge you to stop apologizing for the boundaries you need to create. The very aura that makes you magnetic will grow stronger once you learn how to protect it. There is another danger I must warn you about, and it is subtle. Many empaths mistake their sensitivity for superiority, as though feeling deeply makes them more evolved or more spiritual than others. This is an ego trap. True empathy has nothing to do with being above anyone. If anything, it is a sign that you have touched the raw truth of existence so deeply that illusions can no longer fully protect you. But this does not place you on a throne. It gives you the responsibility to live honestly and consciously. You must remember that every aura, no matter how rare, can become clouded by pride, bitterness, or emotional exhaustion if the shadow remains unexplored. I invite you now to close your eyes for a moment and imagine the rare aura you carry. See it not as a fixed glow, but as a living field breathing with you, expanding and shrinking like the ocean tides. Notice what images rise within you. Perhaps you see a golden light. Perhaps you see a pale flame flickering in darkness. Whatever appears, understand that it reflects both your wounds and your strength. It has been shaped by every act of kindness you offered, but also by every boundary you failed to set. Your aura is not only who you are, it is who you have allowed yourself to become. And now, as you listen to these words, you have an opportunity to shape it consciously. You may believe that this aura, this subtle field of energy people feel before you even speak, exists only because of your natural goodness. But I tell you, it was forged in fire. It is the result of everything you endured, everything you witnessed, and everything you absorbed without fully understanding why. The unconscious recognizes no boundaries. It does not respect the walls people build between themselves. As an empath, you were born with cracks in those walls, or perhaps life shattered them very early. Those cracks became windows through which the emotions of others entered you. At first, this feels overwhelming. You wonder why crowded places leave you drained. You wonder why the sadness of a stranger lingers inside your chest as though it were your own sorrow. You question why certain people leave you feeling empty, while others fill you with life and energy. What you are experiencing is not weakness. It is sensitivity without direction. And until you learn how to guide this energy consciously, you will continue carrying emotions that were never yours to hold. Many empaths spend years trying to rescue everyone around them, while secretly hoping someone will finally rescue them. This creates a hidden exhaustion deep inside the soul. You give your attention, your compassion, your understanding, and your emotional presence so freely that eventually you begin to disappear from your own life. The danger is not only physical exhaustion. The greater danger is losing contact with your authentic self. You become so focused on understanding others that you stop asking yourself what you truly need. This is why solitude becomes necessary for the empath. Not isolation born from fear, but sacred solitude where your own voice can finally be heard again. When you step away from constant emotional noise, you begin to notice which feelings truly belong to you. You begin to understand that not every sadness is your responsibility to heal. Not every broken soul is your mission to save. Some people are committed to their suffering because it protects them from change. And no amount of empathy can transform someone who refuses to face themselves honestly. There is a painful truth many empaths must eventually accept. Some people are drawn to your light, not because they wish to grow, but because they wish to consume. Your warmth comforts them. Your understanding gives them relief. Your presence calms the chaos inside them. But if they refuse to take responsibility for their own healing, they will continue returning to you only to refill themselves while leaving you emotionally depleted. This is why boundaries are not acts of cruelty. They are acts of survival. A healthy empath learns that compassion without boundaries becomes self-destruction. You can love people deeply without sacrificing your spirit for them. You can care without carrying. You can support without drowning beside them. This lesson changes everything because it transforms empathy from a wound into wisdom. Instead of becoming lost inside the emotions of others, you begin standing firmly inside your own center. And once this happens, your aura changes. People no longer sense only softness in you. They also sense strength. They recognize that while your heart remains open, your spirit is no longer available for emotional exploitation. This balance is what creates true presence. It is what makes people feel both safe and challenged around you. Because conscious energy does not only comfort others, it also reveals truth to them. Many people will misunderstand this transformation. Some may accuse you of becoming distant or cold simply because you stopped abandoning yourself for their comfort. But understand this clearly. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is necessary. The empath who never learns this lesson eventually collapses under the emotional weight of everyone around them. But the empath who learns balance becomes something powerful. They become grounded, clear, wise. Their compassion no longer comes from fear of rejection or guilt. It comes from genuine understanding. The rare aura of the empath was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to awaken you. It was meant to guide you toward deeper awareness, deeper truth, and deeper connection with your own soul. But this awakening requires courage. It requires facing the shadow within yourself, the hidden anger, grief, fear, and exhaustion you spent years suppressing in order to care for others. Only by facing these parts can you finally become whole. So if you have spent your life feeling different, overwhelmed, deeply affected by the emotions of others, do not mistake this sensitivity for weakness. It is simply energy without training, awareness without boundaries, compassion without direction. And once you begin the work of understanding yourself, your empathy will stop feeling like a burden and start becoming a source of wisdom. Then your aura will no longer be something that drains you. It will become a force that protects, guides, and strengthens you as you move through the world. Your psyche is like a harp. Every vibration from the outer world touches your inner strings, whether you want it to or not. But the deeper reality is this. The rare energy of a true empath is not only about sensitivity, it is transformation. It is the hidden ability to turn pain into understanding, to sense another person's silent suffering, and transform it into a feeling of connection that brings comfort and healing. But every transformation needs fire, and fire always consumes something. The danger appears when you do not learn how to guide this inner fire with awareness. Then it begins to drain you long before it can light the path for anyone else. I have witnessed this many times. Sensitive people giving every part of themselves until nothing remains. Souls who pour out their energy again and again until exhaustion and bitterness slowly take over. They forget that to carry light, one must also learn how to protect the flame. Empathy must stand beside individuation. Individuation is the process of becoming whole, the union between the conscious and unconscious mind, the public self and the hidden shadow, the personal identity and the deeper archetypal forces within. For the empath, this process is essential because without it, you will constantly be pulled away by the emotions and needs of other people. You must learn to descend into your own depths and ask yourself a difficult question. What do I truly feel? It sounds simple, yet for many empaths it becomes one of the hardest questions they will ever face. You have spent so much of your life acting like a mirror for everyone else that you no longer recognize your own reflection. Your energy becomes unclear when you cannot separate your own light from the emotions projected onto you by others. I once interpreted a dream for a woman who was deeply empathic. In her dream, she carried a bowl of water through a crowded marketplace. Every person she passed placed their hands into the bowl and took water for themselves. Little by little, the bowl became empty. She woke feeling sadness she could not explain. Do you understand the meaning? This is often the life of the unconscious empath. You give your energy freely, but very few people stop to refill what they have taken. If you are not careful, you begin to believe your only purpose is to give until there is absolutely nothing left inside you. But there was another part of the dream that she had not noticed until we explored it together. Hidden in the corner of the marketplace stood a fountain flowing endlessly with clear water. That fountain represented her inner source, the deeper self, the endless well of energy that exists within every human being. The true task of the empath is to discover this fountain and learn how to draw from it instead of depending only on limited emotional reserves. Only then can giving remain healthy and your inner energy stay alive instead of becoming weak and empty. The archetype of the mother often appears strongly in empaths. Even in people who are not mothers by gender or biology, the instinct still exists. It is the urge to comfort, protect, nurture, and hold the pain of others as though it were a wounded child. But when this archetype grows too large, it becomes dangerous. It creates martyrdom, the belief that your value comes only through sacrifice. This is not true empathy. It is unconscious compulsion. Real empathy understands balance. It understands that receiving is just as important as giving. Boundaries are not cruel walls. They are gates of clarity. Without those gates, your energy becomes porous and unstable. Soon you find yourself carrying burdens that never belonged to you in the first place. Then the shadow begins to speak through tiredness, irritation, frustration, or even physical illness. The body starts carrying what the psyche refuses to release. I must also warn you about the archetype of the victim. Many empaths, after feeling the heaviness of the world for so long, begin to unconsciously identify with suffering itself. They start believing their sensitivity is a curse, and that they are doomed to be drained by every person they encounter. But this is not the truth. It is simply a story created by the shadow to separate you from your real power. The real strength of the empath is not absorbing pain endlessly. It is transforming pain into wisdom and understanding. To do this, however, you must stop defining yourself by your wounds. You must realize that empathy is not about drowning inside the collective emotions of humanity. It is about learning how to move through those depths without losing yourself. Think of it like entering the ocean. If you do not know how to swim, the water will pull you under. But once you learn, those same waters become something that supports you instead of destroying you. The collective unconscious is filled with symbols trying to guide you if you are willing to notice them. Have you paid attention to the animals appearing in your dreams? The serpent, the deer, the owl. These are not meaningless images. They are messengers from your own psyche, showing how your empathy is being used or misused. The serpent often represents transformation, the release of old skin and the renewal of boundaries. The deer symbolizes gentleness and sensitivity, but also vulnerability, reminding you to protect your heart without turning cold. The owl, with its watchful eyes, speaks of wisdom and the gift of seeing hidden truths in darkness. Each symbol reveals something about your inner energy and what it requires in order to remain clear and strong. Remember this carefully. Your aura is never fixed. It changes as you change. When you are grounded within yourself, your energy becomes clear and balanced. It naturally attracts people who are ready for growth and healing. But when you abandon your own needs and become emotionally fragmented, your energy turns into a signal for chaos. It begins attracting people who unconsciously want to unload their wounds onto someone else. These people are often called emotional vampires, though the term sounds dramatic. They are not evil. Most are simply lost inside their own shadow. Yet you cannot allow yourself to become their endless supply of energy. You must recognize when someone approaches you not to heal, but only to feed from the light you carry. This understanding is not cruelty, it is discernment. And discernment is one of the purest forms of love. There is a deep loneliness that sometimes comes with being a true empath. You notice things other people miss. You feel hidden tension in conversations, sadness behind forced smiles, silent pain hidden beneath ordinary words. This can make you feel different from everyone around you, as though you are living slightly outside the world others inhabit. But this solitude is not punishment. It is part of your calling. The archetype of the seer lives within you. To possess such perception means standing between the conscious world and the hidden mysteries of the unconscious. And the world needs souls like this now more than ever before. But it does not need empaths who are exhausted, shattered, or emotionally consumed. It needs empaths who have learned to stand firmly within themselves. People who have transformed their sensitivity into wisdom instead of suffering.